Welcome, everybody, to the Tools for the Modern Man podcast. I'm your host, Pete Beskus, and today I'm really lucky to be sharing this airtime with my friend, colleague, Dr. Lee Koles. Lee and I met in a group mastermind, the Next Level Academy, and I just really respect her and everything that she brings to the table. Lee, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Pete. So great to be here.
Can you tell our viewers a little bit of what you do and who you are?
Yes. So I help people achieve their next level. So people come to me when they hit a crossroads and they realize that they are ready for their own personal upgrade, whether it's in their career, if they want something new or they're going back to work or they want something different or a promotion, or just even upgrading their relationships with their friends, their families, or even their own relationship with themselves.
Great. And where's the first place you start when people do that?
So the first thing that I do is we take a close look at the person. And one thing that I love to do is get them acquainted with who they are and mainly what their strengths are.
And so because this episode is going to be about strengths, and I brought you on because you are the strengths expert. I also believe you are a Clifton Strengths certified coach as well.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm
an industrial organizational psychologist, so have studied the psychology's application to the workplace. And I'm also a Gallup certified strengths coach and a certified life coach.
See, and that's why I brought you on, because with all this wealth of information, I really want to give people an idea of why are strengths important. So maybe you can help to clarify that for us.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'll just take a step back and just define what a strength is. A strength is those activities that you carry out with consistent, near perfect performance. So these are derived from your innate abilities, your talents, and these are things that you do naturally without even thinking about it. So all of us have unique strengths. However, because they're so much a part of who we are, they're just embedded in us and we do them naturally. Sometimes it's hard for us to articulate what they are. Other people may be able to look at us and say, oh my gosh, Pete, you do this so well, you do that so well. Don't you realize that? And usually your first instinct is with strengths is you kind of figure that everybody can do those same things that you can do. So when I work with my clients, it is really fun to start with strengths and get them acquainted with their strengths, really introduce them to their strengths. I use the Clifton Strengths Assessment tool to do that. And it really lights the way in terms of what they want to achieve.
Okay, so let's dive into why are they important then?
Okay, well, your strengths are important because these are things that come naturally to you. So in terms of the Clifton Strengths Assessment, for example, it's not a personality test. Personality tests or personality indicators like the Myers-Briggs, those can be kind of fun, but they're not grounded in research. The Clifton Strengths Assessment is based on decades of research on pathways to excellence. So it's not measuring your personality, it's measuring how do you accomplish a goal? How do you get things done? And each one of us has a unique way in which we can do that. So the theory behind our learning about your strengths is if there are things that you already do really well that get you to excellence, being able to understand those, identify them, and then use them strategically in your day, in your life, as you try to go about, mastering your goals, confronting challenges, you're going to get so much further if you focus on what you're already good at than trying to develop things that you are not naturally good at.
Okay, so given that, what are some common misconceptions people might have between, say, their personality and strengths and their strengths?
Misconceptions. Well, like I told you before, people may take their strengths for granted or not really be able to understand them and know them because they're so much a part of who they are. So the first step is really being able to identify what they are and being able to articulate to yourself what it is about yourself that makes you special, that sets you apart from the rest. And once you know that, then you can actually leverage those and use them to accomplish your goals.
Okay, that's great. Well, and for our viewers, this is going to be a real treat for me. I was able to give my Clifton Strengths Assessment to Lee, and she's going to walk through what it looks like to be able to diagnose what they are, how to use them, and we're going to use myself as a guinea pig to really give the insight or behind the scenes look at what it is to evaluate someone's strengths.
Your listeners are going to love this. They're going to get to know Pete at a very deep level. So the Clifton Strengths Assessment, there are 34 strengths that are measured. And so what we're going to do right now, Pete, is we're just going to look at your top five, because your top five strengths, those are the ones that you use all the time. And the odds that two people have the same top five strengths in the same order is 1 in 33 million. I mean,
Wow.
it's
Wow,
crazy.
that's
Yeah.
like a fingerprint, right? That's like
I know
a fingerprint.
I love the way you said that. Yes, it is like, this is the Pete Beskus finger point or fingerprint right
Fingerprint.
here.
No.
Yes. Yeah. So are you ready?
Yeah, let's dive in. And then I'm
Okay.
definitely going to have questions as we go along because I think it's
Yeah.
probably some of the same things people would think about as their strengths are brought up and they're discussed. Because just like with anything that we become aware of, it's so much more valuable to have someone else bounce it back and forth and, and introduce these ideas to you. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Right, right. And part of strengths coaching, I mean, anyone can just go and take the Clifton Strengths Assessment. You can go, anyone can do that, but we're taking it to another level, okay, in terms of going through it with a coach, because you can read a report. I'm sure you've read your report and thought, okay, what does this mean? Okay, whatever. But the whole purpose is to really internalize your strengths and then strategize. How are you going to use them? How have you used them? And how are you going to use them in the future?
This is
Okay.
exciting.
Okay. Let's get started. So, Pete, your number one strength is activator. And this is described as, the definition of activator is, you can make things happen by turning thoughts into actions. You want to do things now rather than simply talk about them. So, Pete, you know that only action is real. Actions are what actually makes things happen. Do you feel that? How did this come up for you when you saw that as your number one strength?
When I saw that as my number one strength, it really resonates because that Elvis song, a little more, was it a little less conversation, a little more action?
Yeah,
That's how
yeah,
I feel all the time. I'm like, enough. Let's stop
yeah.
talking. Let's start doing, right? And I've been, I think I've also jumped into things without overthinking them too much. Just let's start and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one thing with like the activator, many of us mull over things, think about things over and over. We spend our days just wondering. Pete, you with that activator strength, you're gonna just go for it. And like if the decision is made to go across town, the fastest way to get there is to go stoplight by stoplight, but you are not going to wait until all the stoplights are green. Okay. You know that you just need to go. And sometimes you might have to stop at the red light, but then that's going to take you to the next light. And you know that the only way to get across town is to just go. So one thing that may come up for you, Pete, is you might be looking around at other people and saying, dude, why aren't you going? Like, what are you waiting for? So that's something that may come up for you as someone with that activator strength, is you may look at other people and think, what is your problem? Why aren't you just doing it? You have a problem? Let's go fix it. Let's go solve it.
Wow, that's very accurate, I would say.
Yeah. And one thing also, you as a coach, is you are able to diagnose a problem and then take action and help your clients take action as well.
Yeah, and I think I could see that with the application here.
Mm-hmm.
To also have that energy to help guide other people to take action, because sometimes we like to borrow from the people around us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one thing that someone with that activator strength, just be sure you take the time to explain the reasons behind your actions, because when you're saying, okay, everybody, let's go, sometimes, other people, they may not have that activator strength and they may need just a little reassurance, a little explanation as to why it is that you're going to be taking the next step.
Okay, that's a good one to also think about the backside of it, how it can show up a little negatively. I could run too fast for people to catch up.
Right. Well, there can be too much of a good thing. So that's always a good thing to learn, as you're learning about your strengths, you may see how it helps you, and you may also see, oh gosh, sometimes the strength kind of runs away with me, and this happens. So it's really good to be aware of that. And now that you know that activator is your number one strength, and if you see hesitancy with other people, you can kind of check yourself and say, okay,
Yeah.
Pete, like, it's your activator thing. Not everybody is like me. Let's get everybody else up to speed so then we can take action.
All right, that sounds great.
Yeah. Okay. So your second strength is relator. And as a relator, you enjoy close relationships with others and you find deep satisfaction in working hard with friends to achieve a goal. So you form solid, genuine, and mutually rewarding relationships. You're not a surface guy. You're not the type of person who just wants to run out and meet a bunch of people and just small talk. Small talk's not your thing. You like to get real. Does that sound like you?
That's 100%. Like I just did, an evaluation on core values and shared that with everybody. And one of my top core values is always relationships and diving deep into relationships
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
interconnectivity. And it's interesting because how those two things play together is collaboration. Like I thrive in collaboration, and I thrive in collaborating with the people I work with. I always look at two heads are better than one,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Mm-hmm.
can get back as much as I give, which is, I think, a true strength.
Right, right. And someone with that relator strength, you are willing to open up to someone else and to become vulnerable, knowing that will also welcome vulnerability and openness from someone else. So as a coach, you are absolutely able to receive when people open up to you and let you in and tell you, all the challenges that they're having. That's something
Yeah,
that you're very comfortable with.
yeah, and I can relate to them as well. It gives me that little bit of one step where I can put myself in your shoes. I can see where you're coming from, and
Right.
help develop something that works.
Mm-hmm. Right. So your third strength is individualization. You are intrigued by the unique qualities of a person. You have a gift for figuring out how different people can work together productively. So you notice and appreciate the unique qualities of each person. You do not believe that there is just a blanket cure for everyone. So as a coach, you're not going to have just a system that you put in place with each person who comes and meets with you. You are going to take the time to really get to know each person, of each client, and their individual issues and challenges. And then you're going to be able to tailor your work to actually meet the needs of that client.
Yeah, and that seems really accurate for me as well, because if I look at my entire history of problem solving, of thinking outside the box, of basically treating everything as a unique solution, that's how I approach it with my clients and with the people I interact with every day. It's, the themes can be similar, but
Mm-hmm.
challenges are individual.
Right. Right. So you have strategies and tools that you use, but that you have acquired, but you're going to take those and you're going to look at each individual client and see what tools will work best for this client. How can I best present these tools to this particular client based upon the challenges or the questions that they have for me? So that is going to be really, really satisfying for someone who's working with you.
Yeah, and it's also really satisfying for me because it creates an opportunity to to have a unique solution for that person that needs it, right? And
Right.
and that collaborative nature of it where you're working and you're adjusting and you're tweaking. Like it's almost like tweaking a recipe, right? Tweaking trying to perfect a meal. You're trying to perfect someone's experience.
Yes, that is so true. And actually, that interacts really well with that relator strength that you have, just really being able to go deep with an individual and have them open up and understand how that person ticks and what motivates that person.
Yeah,
Now,
those three seem to be working together right now.
yeah, yeah. Now, the flip side, I was thinking individualization, especially as a parent. Your kids may say, Dad, why do you let him stay up later than me? Or, why do you have different rules for, my sibling? And it's because you don't believe that everyone has to be treated the same way. You know that with one child, you may have to address him in a certain way, and the other child may respond differently to a different technique. So that is something that may come up for you in terms of
Well,
that
that already
individualization.
has. That already has,
Yeah.
and I laugh because when you say that, bedtime's a big issue around the house.
Oh,
And my
yes.
daughter gets tired, and she's like, "Oh, put me to bed." And then my son, he's 2 years younger, 18 months younger, and he is bounced around the walls. Well, once we put Zoe to bed, he'll come and sneak and watch like 20 minutes more TV with me or something, right?
Right. Right.
Because I know he needs that time to kind of calm down, and his sister
Yeah.
doesn't. So I see that every day. Yeah, I
Right.
can.
Right. So you're not hung up on everything needs to be the same. I have to like each child needs to be treated exactly the same because that doesn't necessarily, in your eyes, that it doesn't necessarily serve that child to have it be exactly the same as their brother or sister.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. So your fourth top strength is analytical. You search for reasons and causes, and you have the ability to think about all the factors that might affect a solution. And what this means is also you're not afraid to challenge other people. You're not afraid to say, if someone comes to you with a problem or with a strategy, you're the kind of person who says, prove it, like show me that what you're saying is true. And you want to make sure that all the theories that you use are sound and you're able to uncover the essential facts needed to achieve excellence.
Yeah, and that's accurate, 100% accurate. I think I've been that person my whole life where I fundamentally believe in what I'm presenting because I've done the work. I've
Yeah,
done the
you've poked
research on
around
it,
on that. Yes.
but I'm also willing to admit I'm wrong if someone provides the information. And I think that's a unique and rare quality, one, to do the work, and two, to admit you're wrong.
Right, right. So you're not going to present something to your audience unless you have researched it and you feel like it is high quality and it's going to help them solve a challenge in their life.
Exactly. And I think that's why, again, when I present how I teach, it's the tools. These are tools that work. These are things that, are tried and true. These are things that are vetted. This will work.
Right, right. So it's like this big quality control that you have going on at all times. And one thing that I think is really cool is with analytical, sometimes people with a strong analytical strength just keep asking questions, keep researching, keep studying. But because your number one strength is activator, it's this really great combination because you're going to pursue that action, like, and maybe even as you're acting, you're going to be analyzing the action that you've taken and deciding what needs to be tweaked, what do you need to do to make it better. So I love that you have this pairing of activator and analytical. They both are going to balance each other out really well.
Yeah, I never really thought about that, those two combining to actually balance each other. Because I can see how one can become a problem and the other one can be a problem.
Right.
But together they kind of, I guess, kind of make it a little bit more nuanced.
Yes. I mean, so if analytical were your number one and activator were your 34th, then you may just be spinning and spinning and spinning. But because you have them working so closely together, you are you're taking action, but you're also really taking a close look at those actions and seeing how are they turning out? How can things be improved? What are the effects of what I'm doing? How can I tweak it and change it?
Yeah,
And
and
then
I think
act again.
where that really shows up is being able to pivot down a certain path. And I think that when
Yes.
working with people or just in general, going down a certain path, being able to evaluate the data that you're getting, right? It's
Hmm.
kind of like that feedback loop of, is this working? And
Right.
what do I need to make that adjustment?
Right. And as the coach client relationship, it's this back and forth relationship as you do try on different things and see, how's this working for you, and getting, and actually the fact that you're looking for feedback on how these strategies are working and you're able to tweak them to manage some of the, if you bring in that individualization and the analytical, how does this strategy that you're using work with this individual, and what can you do to tweak it and change it, and then take more action together.
Yeah, and I think that's really where the impact of the coaching that I do works, is because it's not a canned course. It's
Yeah,
not just a watch and execute. It's working together, it's tweaking things, it's making things better, it's adjusting. And not one, like you said with the strengths, no single person uses the same or has the same five strengths in that order. Well, no single
exactly.
person will adopt the tools the same way.
Right, right. So your fifth top five strength, or that doesn't make sense. Your number five strength is strategic. You create alternative ways to proceed. So, faced with any given scenario, you can quickly spot the relevant patterns and issues. So, you are going to bring this creative anticipation and imagination and persistence to challenges. And you are going to be able to quickly weigh alternative paths. So I like to think of someone with that strategic strength as you're in a drone above, the football field, and you can kind of see how things are going to play out, or like a chess player. You can kind of see several steps in advance with the strategic strength of yours. Okay, if I put this piece here, you can see what the next few moves are going to be.
Wow, I've always loved that part probably the most. I think that's probably the one I've thought about the most, is the
Yeah.
big picture thinker, being able to just take a step back and see how all the pieces are playing together. And
Right.
it's funny because some of those other qualities like analytical or the activator have gotten in the way a little bit of being able to step back and look at the big picture.
Tell me about that.
Well, it's interesting because I find if I get fixated on a certain problem or a certain issue that I'm trying to figure out, whether it's with a person trying to, overcome a hurdle, or if they've plateaued or something, and I'll fixate on that, and I will sometimes prevent myself from stepping back and looking at the journey,
Yes.
that
Yeah.
these are all necessary steps. So it's really good to be able to say, hey, this is important. This is part of the five that I
Right.
need to start implementing.
Right. And one thing, as someone with that strategic strength, just giving yourself time to pause and let your brain play out the future, that's really going to paint a great picture for you. And that's also it's I think working with a coach who has a strategic strength, that's so helpful because you can see what the end result is going to be. The kind of progress that a client is going to make, and when they run into those obstacles, you've already anticipated those obstacles. One thing as a coach, it's you want to make sure that you let your client in on the strategy. You can say, it's actually part of the game to run up against a wall right now and to feel this discomfort that you're feeling right now. That is part of the process. So fill them in on, the plays that are going to happen in the course of the game that you're playing with them.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that too, and I think that we all experience it as human beings, it's harder for us as individuals when we're going through something challenging to be able to take a step back.
Yes,
And what I bring to the table with that strength is being able to do it for them
exactly.
when they can't.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, they're in it, right? They're on the field, like thinking about like holding the football in their hands, thinking about just that one, trying to get the next down. So it's you are able to be the one who can say, yeah, you're going to get the touchdown. It's going to be fine. This is how it's going to happen in the end.
That's right. We're just getting 1 yard at a time. I'm watching the clock. I'll take care of all that other stuff. You just
Yes,
focus on executing the next play.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's,
there you are in a nutshell.
that was
Your top
really
five strengths.
that was really amazing. I loved going through that with you because, I didn't take the time to really sit and see how they work together. I saw the different strengths and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool."
Right. And sometimes it takes discussions with other people, like being able to talk to someone who knows you well, and they can say, "Oh yeah, Pete, I see, you use that activator during this time," or I can see your strategy at use here. So it's really, really helpful to have conversations with other people about your strengths.
Well, since we went through the top five strengths, I just have a question. It's the elephant in the room. What do you do
Uh-huh.
with those weaknesses that exist?
Okay. Well, the weaknesses aren't necessarily strengths number 33 and 34. Those are just not the way, to your excellence. So for example, and I haven't looked at your number 34, but maybe there's a strength called deliberative, which
Mhm.
is someone with the deliberative strength, they pause and really analyze every single step, and they do not take action until they've looked at everything. Well, I would guess that would be pretty low for you, since your top strength is activator. So it is okay for you to not exercise that deliberative strength. Like, you can let it go. You don't necessarily need that, because you achieve excellence through action, not through that deliberation process. I think that where the problems often come up is like we've discussed, maybe too much of a good thing. So really knowing your strengths can help you catch your weaknesses too, because maybe sometimes your strength, when it's too much, can act as a weakness to you.
Okay, I think that's really enlightening for me because I believe most of us, we will always focus on our weaknesses,
Yeah,
quote
yeah.
unquote. But to
Mhm.
hear you phrase it like they're not weaknesses, these are just not your strengths. And your
Right.
strengths are what hold the potential weaknesses by overindulging in them or being too much of the good thing.
Right. Exactly. You're not supposed to be able to use all 34 of these strengths all at the same time to achieve excellence. Like, you're going to pick you're going to have your go-tos, and that is absolutely fine. And there is nowhere in the Gallup's research that said, okay, here's your 34 strengths, but like, really, these are the best ones. These number 1, 2, so there isn't a preference given to these. These are 34 different ways that you can achieve your goals.
I love that. 34 different ways that you can achieve your goals. So every single person who gets their strengths analyzed can use those strengths to their advantage.
Yes.
Awesome. So let the audience know if they wanted to do this assessment themselves, how can they reach you? How can they work with you?
Yeah, well, the assessment is available on gallup.com, so anyone can just take the assessment and have it. But as you've seen and experienced, Pete, it's really helpful to go through it with a coach. So this is what I do with my clients. It is really fun, and then we dive deep and we get strategic, like how with using these. So you can reach out to me at Lee Koles at careersequel.com, and my name, that's LeeKoles at careersequel.com. I'm on LinkedIn, and you can go to my website, careersequel.com. I also have a podcast that's called, guess what? Career Sequel.
And it's a
So
fantastic podcast. I recommend everybody who's like looking to up level their career or just thinking about different ways to focus on their strengths. Listen to Lee. Fantastic value there. Thank you so much. I'm going to have all of your contacts in my show notes. So, is there anything else that we didn't discuss that you would love to share with the audience?
I just would like everybody to know that you are you're special. Like you have talents. You have strengths, talents in you that are unique from anyone else. And it's just a matter of you identifying them and using them, and you can get ahead.
Thank you so much, Lee, for being on our show this week. And I hope everyone reaches out and gets their one on one with you because I think it's so valuable. Thank you
Oh,
again.
thanks, Pete, for having me on.